I want to go there, and not just there. If they're going to do a press trip to celebrate 20 years of Mount Iwate, you need to keep us there the full year. I want to see all the seasons. I want to see all of the landscapes. I want the designers to show me the dial and say, see this day in spring? Remember this watch from 2014? There you go. This was it. And I want the full Mount Iwate experience.
Greetings and welcome to aBlogtoWatch Weekly this week. If you have not joined us for the live show on a Tuesday on the YouTube channel, aBlogtoWatch Weekly Live, then you've already missed out on the announcement of the new FP Journe Swatch Resonance James Bond-O-Matic bomb disposal watch. So you need to go back and check out the channel for that. There's always a little bit of a preamble when we go live, and there's always a little bit of post-match chat as well. So if you want a little bit extra on the podcast, or you can't wait until the Thursday or Friday release of the podcast, you can always go and check out the actual live unedited broadcast on YouTube. aBlogtoWatch Weekly Live. So, gentlemen, how are we all? David, are you well?
I'm very well. Proud new microphone owner, as I said. What time should people join for the live? I think we should mention that.
The live is generally about 7:30 UK time.
So 8:30.
But it starts with the accuracy of an out-of-the-box Seiko NH34. Like,
and if you're in Asia, probably the timing works great.
Yeah, plus or minus.
Yes, we managed to time the live broadcast of the show for the audience which we have the least of, especially as I found out this week that we've been banned in Nepal, because Ankur, who listens to us from Nepal, who we've met a couple of times, pointed out that he can't get the show at the moment, and it turns out that for some reason...
Banned from Nepal?
Well, Spotify are not supplying the show to Nepal at the moment for some bizarre reason. So if you work for Spotify... our 3 people in Nepal that we're listening to are now having to not listen to us. So they'll just have to come to YouTube, but they'll never know because they're not listening to the show. It's just a tragedy.
It's a shame. Nepal has a great flag, and the Gurkha warriors, the origin of the kukri, which I use for most of my yard work, I have a deep admiration for Nepal. It's a shame that they're feeling this some kind of way.
We love your machetes.
It's a typically British thing that, you know, we fight someone who beats us all the time, so instead of fighting them, we recruit them. If you know anything about the Gurkhas, you'll know a little bit about that. Ripley, you're well. You're also clad with a new microphone.
I am. David got the white version. I got the black version. I thought black would be slimming for my neck and face. I'm not sure if that's working for me.
Ariel's microphone is kind of silvery grey colour.
Yes.
It's kind of got the halfway house. And I use a completely different microphone than everybody else. So there you go. Mine's also black.
It's almost the same, isn't it?
Yep. I think it's pretty identical. Ariel, how are you?
I'm good. It's over a month into 2025, and I'd like to actually see a new watch with my own eyes.
Happy New Year. Yes. Well, we asked for it. We queried as to why we hadn't played this game for a wee while. And then what do you know? Seiko only go and do it. They release a new Seiko. The Grand Seiko SLGH027 Evolution 9 High Beat limited edition watch. So first up, gentlemen, Ripley's written this article, so he probably excludes himself. It's a limited edition. How limited a limited edition is it? Have a guess.
I mean, I would not have guessed this was new. It looks like a heartspin jumble of names that they've used before.
Well, I mean, Blessed Mount Iwate is back. That name has been featured in every other Grand Seiko. So
it looks nice. Okay, so this is high beat. How limited is limited? I don't know. I feel like they keep changing the rules on limited edition. If there's anything truly innovative that Seiko has introduced to the watch industry, it's limited edition is a very flexible term.
Yes, it is flexible. It's a limited edition. This is the Evolution 9 platform. It's the high beat 36,000 movement, so not a spring drive. It is steel, but it is the ever brilliant steel, which is Seiko or Grand Seiko's extra corrosion resistant steel. Same movement that we've seen in watches like the Genbi, which I believe was also ever brilliant steel. But It is, the dial pattern is Mount Iwate from viewed from above. Since 2006, I didn't realize it was this long until writing the article. Grand Seiko has been making Mount Iwate dials. So we are coming up on almost 20 years of Grand Seiko Mount Iwate dials. And now we're looking at the mountain from above. The ridges are intended to mirror the ridges of the mountain as seen from the peak. And I guess it's blue because they didn't have a blue one yet.
Is this one of those situations that if the artist didn't tell you what you're supposed to see, you would never see it?
It could be water. It could be like glaciers. It could be anything, literally.
Could
I
be
mean, we know these are
a
textures.
hide.
These are industrially made textures. These aren't like models of the summit. Like, you have to suspend disbelief a little bit to be like, oh, I can kind of see it now. I feel like with Japanese miniature art making being as good as it is, I want to actually see a tiny mountain, ridge for ridge, perfectly as it is topographically.
With the hands coming out from like the top, yeah.
Dead climbers forever frozen in the permafrost to the points. Yeah, I want it to be super realistic.
No more suggestive textures, okay? I want that mountain and only that mountain burned in my memory every time I look at my wrist.
I have suggestive textures coming out of my ears at this point. You are right, actually. I never thought of it that way.
I mean, it must be a glorious mountain. You can't burn the image of the mountain into your eyes because there's been 150,000 different expressions of this mountain. It has been.
Oh
every
no,
color.
that's how many watches we're gonna have. Okay.
Yeah, but it's not more concerning. Like, this picture that's on the screen just now is presumably the mountain it is supposed to resemble, and it looks nothing like it. Like, it's squint for us. It's not this nice coat. It's like Mount St. Helens after the explosion, which is
Don't tell the first
ruined.
grader her art is bad. Come on.
It's okay. Yes, that looks perfectly like Daddy. No, it really doesn't. It really doesn't. The snow's not blue. The mountain's clearly suffering from global warming, and there's no permanent snow on most of the mountain. It should be a slightly blue, more white middle, with then just rocky outcrops as you head towards the numerals.
It is an active volcano, so certain Mount Iwate dials have kind of played into that aspect of it. But yeah, you're correct. There is no crater or anything in the center there. They should have just sunken the hands in to mirror the top of the mountain.
Maybe the second hand could have been red to suggest lava flow, huh?
No, there we go. You see, that's why they pay you the big bucks.
Next limited editions. So wait, how many pieces is it? Look, it's in it, folks.
Right, so how many pieces? How many pieces? We haven't asked the question.
We're making fun of a pretty watch. It's probably a bit on the expensive side, and we just want Seiko to not ask us to be like, and imagine that it's this thing. Like, you guys can be very specific when you want to be. Just say we have this lovely blue colored thing, or make it look actually like this mountain. Put a piece of the mountain. I don't know, anything like that. Just. We've been asked to see your artistic view of the world. Just, I think, one too many times.
Yeah. So how many limited edition Ariel, and guess the price of the Seiko?
I don't know, $10,000. 2,000 watches, 3,000. I don't know.
Okay, David.
1,500
for the price or for the limited edition?
For the limited edition.
And how much?
For the price, 10,000.
10,000. Okay, I think you're reasonably close, David. The price is 10,500 USD.
Oh wow!
And 1,200 total examples.
Wow.
So, do we get what out of 10? Do we give? How do we rate this as a example of a limited edition?
Which is rated by mountains.
4-star limited edition.
It's far from the Fuji, that's for sure.
It gets a little dicey with these Evolution 9 ones because they make a wide smattering of them that look very similar. For example, they've got the white birch with both a automatic and a spring drive movement. But they have other versions of this high beat watch that looks like this. The birch is steel, but it doesn't, on the website, it doesn't say ever brilliant steel. So maybe that, I believe that was rolled out by Grand Seiko in 2023. So maybe it uses the lesser 316L or whatever they were using before.
Mostly brilliant.
Yeah, this is, somewhat brilliant. This is $100 more than the Genbi, which otherwise appears to be identical other than the dial and, colorway on it. but it is a solid chunk more. I think they're like 9,300 or something for like the regular steel, like white birch high beat. So it gets kind of crazy as far as where they're choosing the price point. There's sort of a large spread of like $1,200 where between steel Evolution 9 high beat models, whether it's Ever Brilliant or Mount Awate from Seen From Above. But you are paying an extra $100 for Mount Awate.
Whatever. Should anyone be paying $10,000 for a 3-hand watch with a date made out of steel?
Well, my question is, what happens when they all evolve into 10?
Oh, Evolution 9.
I mean, is the 10 going to be significantly better? You know, I don't know. It's how long is this a slow evolution? Much less of a revolution?
Is it not more that this is likely to be an evolutionary dead end, like some frog that needs to,
because the name implies the promise of change, right? You can't have a watch called Evolution which stays the same after a bazillion versions.
That's a fair point. So what we need is some what was it they do? Evolutions driven by, what's the word I'm looking for? Not
natural selection?
Well, no, not natural selection, by when you get an accidental change and it turns out that's better. Mutation. That's the word I'm looking for. So what we need is a mutated Grand Seiko.
Mutation 10.
Yeah, mutation 10. Now, how would you mutate a Grand Seiko?
They already did. It was that one with those Normo pushers that, like Chrono, that
big ears.
Like you pulled it out of.
Yeah, I had one of those, yes.
They're cool. I quite
Grander
like them.
Seiko.
I quite like them. Anyway, so there's our Grand Seiko. Ripley, anything else to say about it before we move on?
Oh, I mean, 2026 marks 2 full decades of Mount Awate Grand Seiko dials. Just brace yourself.
We'll do the press trip. We'll climb it. We'll climb it.
I want to go there, and not just there. If they're going to do a press trip to celebrate 20 years of Mount Awate, you need to keep us there the full year. I want to see all the seasons. I want to see all of the landscapes. I want the designers to show me the dial and say, "See this day in spring? Remember this watch from 2014? There you go. This was it." And I want the full Mount Awate experience.
You really want to live off the grid, don't you? You and your mechanical watches and the weather.
Yeah, apparently all these guys see out of the studios this beautiful mountain. It seems like endless inspiration.
I want to be inspired just like you, Seiko.
Exactly. I want to see the mountain the way you see it, as this amorphic radial pattern.
It could be a new religion. Worship the mountain, Grand Seiko style.
Well, here's the thing. No one's actually in the studio has seen the mountain from above, unless there was like a tornado or something. So,
well, they had to have for this watch.
Well, maybe this is them branching out. It's no longer a view as seen from the micro artist. It's now seen from the hypothetical view because they've actually run out of views.
Is this one of those volcanoes that demands a sacrifice?
I think it's claimed plenty of lives throughout its tenure.
There's a watch that needs to go to be recognize that.
A lot of brands are doing stuff with the active volcanoes. That Panerai Experience watch, they're taking you to an active volcano.
Remember the Romain Jerome unpronounceable Iceland?
Eyjafjallajökull something.
Yeah. That was a nice, interesting experiment on how to do that with the lava flowing on the. Was it had real ash in it or something? Some insane thing.
Yeah, wait a minute. I'm just let's just see if I can share this. There you go. That's Mount Awate viewed from Google Earth, looking down. That's what it actually looks like.
Whoa, false advertising. That looks nothing like the dial. Colors off. There's no blue at all.
There's no blue at all. Yeah, that's. I think somebody needs the word Grand Seiko. What would actually happen? I mean, far be it, the pair of you, Ripley and Ariel, have experienced somewhat of a limited natural disaster within the Los Angeles region. What would happen to Grand Seiko Design Studio if a semi-active volcano became seriously active and just became like Mountain Hell, just devolved into almost a plane-like? What are they going to get inspired with after that? If just all the volcanoes start going off?
Wasn't there a bad movie about that?
Probably more than one.
Yeah, I'm guessing more than one.
Yeah, at least that'll be a good side effect. After this disaster, there'll be a little lull in the movies where Los Angeles gets destroyed.
Yeah, it is. I read about this. The number of times that it's Los Angeles that gets destroyed versus there's like a scale. Los Angeles at the top, and then I think it's London.
No, how is New York not on there? Every Marvel movie has leveled it like 3 times per film. How is New York?
Ghostbusters, come on.
Yeah, like how is New York not number 1 on that list?
I think the Japanese say, Tokyo, come on.
Godzilla every episode.
It's that kind of thing. Anyway, right, let's move along, and I will share this to start off with. You're probably familiar with the meme. Yes, they are the same meme taken from the American Office. So let's review and have a look at the Panerai Radiomir Giorni. Well, yeah, it's an experience. Giorni Eilean Experience Edition PAM 01643. You can see it there on your screen. It's a Radiomir, looks very nice. Ripley, you wrote it. But let's also consider, also released, unfortunately, on the same day for it to appear on our screens, the Studio Underdog Fears the Gimlet watch, which, if you were looking at them side by side, you would have to say they are the same watch. They certainly appear pretty similar to my eye. So, Ripley, talk to us about the Panerai to start us off. Why should we be interested in this?
The Panerai, it's interesting. This is we have a two-tone Panerai for a change, which I guess is pretty interesting from a brand that basically makes iterations of 2 watches exclusively. This is another one of their Experience Edition watches. So we've seen this watch before from a fundamental standpoint. It's got their 8-day manual wind movement in it. The case is that was it Bermudo steel or something, whatever. They burnish it. What they do is they PVD it and then they hand brush it to give it this cool burnished effect. It kind of sounds cheesy when you're just hearing it, but when you see it in person, it's actually pretty cool. Now, where it gets interesting is the bezel, crown, and caseback medallion. I guess Panerai bought the ship, the Eilean, this famous yacht that was in even in a music video. Famous boat. They restored it. During the restoration, they took some of the bronze hardware from it, melted it down, purified it, mixed it with other bronze to make their bronzo alloy, and then used that to forge the bezel, caseback, medallion, and crown. So it is tethered to the boat. And what this watch comes with is a trip to Italy with Panerai to go. There's a helicopter ride. You go hike up an active volcano. You go visit a winery at the base of the volcano and learn about Sicilian winemaking. It's a whole trip to Sicily. You get to ride the Eilean yacht. I guess that's a big deal with it. But watch itself is cool. It's a steel watch with the bronze bezel and crown, but it's a 2-tone watch, and it does come with a trip to Sicily hosted by Panerai. Because of that, it is shockingly expensive for a 2-tone watch at $43,200. Considering when I say 2-tone, that is no precious metal unless you count the precious bronze reclaimed from the restoration of Panerai's boat.
So how much do we reckon is the watch, and how much do we reckon is the experience of the $43,000 purchase?
Well, they're still making money on both ends.
Yeah, similar models in just the Bermudo steel or whatever are around like 12, 13 grand. So I'd imagine with the bronze, if we separate the origin of the bronze and whatever, maybe 15 or so. So you are paying fairly handsomely, 20-something thousand for a very extravagant Sicilian trip with Panerai. But there's only 30 of them, which is either due to the availability of the bronze or the number of seats available on Panerai's trip. But in the past, some of these experiences have been like training with the Navy SEALs, which sounds like a punishment, not a something I would actively want to do. Some of the cooler ones, if you like the outdoors like I do, would be the Mike Horn stuff where you go visit the North Pole or whatever. But I think everyone can sort of get on board with like a Sicilian trip being approachable and a nice time. And certainly someone who's spending $42,000 doesn't want to get yelled at to do push-ups. So I imagine this will be more appealing as an experience to people.
Okay, and then this collaboration, we'll come on to collaborations later on with a new game. The Studio Underdog Fears the Gimlet watch. There's a bit of a story to this. It's quite a nice story about why it's called the Gimlet. I do remember that the erstwhile owner, number 4 of Fears, was always a bit annoyed when when his watch design was related to Panerai, considering the history of the brand. But there's no getting away from the fact that this does look Radiomir-like, although a diminutive 38 millimeters, I think. Ripley, you wrote the intro on this. What do we think? Limited edition, I think of it's £1,000 and
Yeah,
200 of, I think.
Yeah, £1,000. So it's a Fears Studio Underdog collab. And to just set the record straight, Panerai's Radiomir dates back to the 30s. Fears was making a cushion case watch like this in the 20s. So if we really want to talk about who did it first, I guess we can give the nod to Fears. And both brands went inactive. Yeah, both brands went inactive for an extended period. Let's regardless, cushion cases are around. This isn't necessarily a Fears watch if you really want to strip it back. This is really more like the Studio Underdog field watch, 2-layered dial, but done in the style of Fears. So a Fears Brunswick, which is the model that features this case, will normally run you $3,000-$4,000. It's a very nicely executed watch. This isn't necessarily that watch. It's done in the style of that watch, but it's really more akin to the Studio Underdog field watch with the Fears cushion case and styling. Same movement as the Studio Underdog. Consequently, it's only $100 more than what Studio Underdog charges for their field watch. So while it looks like a Fears and is done in collaboration with Fears to celebrate British Watchmakers Day, you're not necessarily getting a Fears for 1/3 the price. You're getting a Studio Underdog collab with Fears that looks like a Fears, but is a Studio Underdog. So in the same way that a Moon Swatch is a swatch that looks like an Omega, this is a Studio Underdog that looks like a Fears, although the delta between those two brands is obviously quite a lot closer than between a Omega Speedmaster and a $250 plastic quartz piece.
That was my thinking on it. Is there a risk here that it looks so much like a Fears? Why would you pay 4 times the price for the actual Fears? Or it makes you curious to where the value is when something is produced that looks so much. It's not like a Moon Swatch Speedmaster. One is clearly made out of plastic and has a Velcro strap. Well, some of the ones have Velcro straps as well, but it's clearly a cheap version. I find it difficult to think that this is not more of a Fears watch than it is of a Studio Underdog watch, despite the fact that it's a quarter the price. Just a bit of an odd
perspective, maybe.
How do people respond to this?
Fears generally positive. I mean, there's so few of them. This is kind of a fun thing that the two brands are doing. They're both British brands to celebrate British Watchmakers Day. Last year, Fears teamed up with Chris Ward to do a jumping hours piece that ultimately ended up growing into a standard production model for them. So they like to do these collabs with a fellow British brand to celebrate British Watchmakers Day. This isn't going to be a permanent offering that's going to undercut Fears catalog. And since Fears normally does such a kind of a classic refined style, this sort of bright colored, fully luminous dial, sapphire sheet above it thing, it's so modern and more playful that it sort of is like the Moon Swatch version. It's the colorful, lighthearted, quote unquote lower quality version. But when you just look at the photos, you can tell that the finishing on this and the finishing on a standard Fears are quite a bit different. I think Fears pieces really are one where you do have to kind of see them in person to appreciate them. The designs they're nice, but they're not necessarily so outspokenly unique that you're going to just gravitate to it on that alone. But there's a lot of attention to detail that goes in them. And I can't imagine that same degree is present on this watch. Granted, it's $1,000. It's a fun piece. It's a collab they did. And I'm sure they're going to sell out the morning of.
So I have a question here. I think it's interesting to talk about the comparison with the Omega Swatch because that is a good comparison. But Omega and Swatch have collectively much more of a storied reputation with the audience. Fears and Studio Underdog within a relatively small, hyper voracious community for sure, it's well known. Is Fears seen as a luxury brand that when an opportunity comes to buy something with its name on it for less, not cheap? Again, the swatch was significantly less than this watch, which is over $1,000. In the few short years since the brand made its comeback, is that the traction that it has, that it's able to get people excited about buying a cheaper yet still luxury version. Because I think, as you explained so well, thank you, is that watch is essentially Studio Underdog with the Fears name on it, in the same way that the Omega swatch is a swatch with the Omega name on it.
I don't think it's the Fears brand making the sale. I think these are largely going to be purchased by people who like both brands. Maybe they already own a Fears and think this is a fun. I own a Speedmaster. I bought a Moon Swatch after the fact because I thought it was a fun, cheap way to indulge in a style I already liked. I imagine there's going to be some people who do that. It is kind of a more lighthearted expression, but I don't think that the people who buy this are looking to get a budget Fears, but rather they appreciate both brands, and maybe they're working with a budget that could buy either, but they're doing this to support both. Maybe they already have watches from both, but I can't imagine that anyone is just so lusting after the $3,000 piece that they're just going to try to get the $1,000 piece and feel that satisfies them fully.
I mean, can we agree it's a very niche play for sure? Like, there's a small audience out there that understands both of these brands enough that something like this makes sense. It's a pretty watch, but I think that you need to know the story really well.
Yeah, if this was a standard offering, I think it would be kind of a confusing thing for them to do. But because this is a small batch limited edition between two British brands released on British Watchmakers Day, I can't imagine like anyone who's not present at the event is going to get one of these unless they've organized something in advance. So I think it's really just kind of a fun thing to do. But you know, with the Moser Studio Underdog collab, I feel like all bets are off. I don't think that makes more sense than this one if you look at it on paper. So this is just sort of on par for Studio Underdog.
I think they're already all sold out, and you have to be at the British Watchmakers Day, as I understand it, to be able to buy one, or know somebody very, very close to the brands to be able to get your hands on one.
Are we not over this sort of like standing in line for a watch, getting on the wait list, hype watch? I thought the last couple of years tried to shove so much of this down the audience's throat that people just sort of rejected it. And like, you know what? I'm going to read about watches because I like it, and then buy something when I say I want to buy it. You're going to stop pressuring me into buying things that I ultimately don't want.
I think from the big brands, yes, as an extent of that has faded. But I think from these hyper niche brands where you want to be the guy or girl in the know because you know Nicholas, you know Richard, the two owners. Oh, so I buy their watch because I know. It's like a watch that you're able to personalize even more, because it's not just that somebody says, oh, what's that on your wrist? Not that anybody ever asks. But you can say, oh, yeah, that's a watch. And I know these people. I think the bragging rights of getting one, it's £1,000. It's still a lot of money, but it's not hyper money. That little touch of, I know these people, you know, I got it given to me in a pizza box, or I got to share a glass of champers with Nicholas, whatever is what makes these two brand collaborations sell out. It's going to be a British Watchmakers Day. It's about
it's about group identity. These people are saying, I not only support British watchmaking, but I go to these events, I hang out with this crowd, it makes me feel good. It's an identity watch, and that's not a bad thing. I just think it's interesting that without these community elements, these watches would have difficulty asserting themselves in a crowded marketplace.
Yeah, I think it is one of these community watches whereby it's a group of people who have decided to make their own watch, and everybody kind of feels involved in it, even though it's just been Nicholas and Richard designing it. I think somehow it communicates involvement to the rest of the community. Oh, look what we brought you. And that's what makes it popular.
And these special edition British Watchmakers Day watches are part of the event. These aren't the only brands that are releasing something for it. A number of the brands exhibiting are doing these special editions that you can only get there. I chose to write about this one because I thought it was a cool play, kind of on the heels of what Studio Underdog recently. I like just sort of seeing the two brands team up and kind of really sort of blend both identities into one watch. But there's a lot of different brands that sometimes they're not collaborations, sometimes they are, sometimes they're just doing a thematic thing for the event, but it's a whole sort of facet to this one-day event where there are these watches that the attendees can buy or maybe get if they, know some people. So like, right, like Rick said, it is the community aspect of it. There is the sort of, oh, you were able to get one. Were you at the event? Oh, no, I know Nicholas or something like that, So I think that is part of it.
And David, how much longer has this got to run that small groups of people like British Watchmakers Day can be producing a number of limited edition watches to sell on the day and they'll keep selling? Is there a limit to where the market is? Like eventually, people will just run out of money or eventually wake up and realize, actually, I don't need to buy the watch every year that's released for the special occasion. Or is it just a continual cycle? We're just adding more people in the bottom that want to do this.
We've seen this in other ends of the market where this has been tested multiple times before. I'm not saying I have specific situations. What comes to mind a little bit, it's a bit different, is with Omega and the Speedmaster. And they just felt like we just keep coming out with new versions of it over and over for the enthusiasts, and they'll keep buying them. And eventually they're like, whoa, guys. Okay, this was good for a little bit, but this is not sustainable. And I think that
great answer, David.
Thank you.
Oh, that was David? Sorry, I didn't hear that part.
It's fine.
Oh, sorry.
David, no, give us some more. I don't care.
Yeah, no, I agree. And also I think it's people evolve, and it's not the same audience that, every year or every 2 years or 3 years. Somebody buys this and then goes on and their watch collecting habits evolve, and other people will attend these events and buy these watches next year and the year after that. So as long as the recipe works, like Ariel said, then this is sustainable. If the price is low enough and the limitation is low enough and the watch is enticing enough, which in this case clearly is, then I think this is not going anywhere, this trend.
Yeah, I think David brings up a good point that this is a price sensitive offering. I think it was smart for Fears and Studio Underdog to make the Fears looking Studio Underdog at $1,000 than the Studio Underdog looking Fears at $4,000, which is kind of where I think the Moser collab went a bit astray for Moser. But like David said, if the price is low enough and the watch is compelling enough, people are going to want to buy it. So I think provided that they're able to keep things realistic, this can be a fun annual thing for people to indulge in. But once you start getting too much above that 4-figure price point, it becomes a categorically different purchase.
Hokey coke. Well, after some of last week's collaborations that we discussed, I thought we'd do something a bit new. And I was contemplating using this watch as the pinnacle of collaborations, the Fears. The other alternative to introduce our new judging was to use this watch, the Sajima. If you can find the picture, where is the Bulgari Octofinissimo Sajima as being the perfect collaboration. So I think because myself and David really like this watch, we'll use this to introduce our new collaboration scale. So here is our scale for judging all collaborations, and the scale goes from -5 to +5 on the basis that a collaboration can also damage a brand if not done right. So the first up is the creation, the collaboration, is the sum of the part. What is it? Is the whole greater than the sum of the parts on a scale of -5 to 5? So we're giving the Octofinissimo a 5 for that. It's much greater. They couldn't have done it themselves. It would be individual. So there we go. Then the second judgment is: have you actually ever heard of the collaborator? Like, is it a collaboration? Like, why is this a collaboration? I've never heard of these people. Whereas we have heard of this. So -5 to 5. So we give Sajima, famous architect, we give it a 5 as well. And then fundamentally, is it a cool watch? Okay, so a collaboration can be good, even if you've not heard of them, if it turns out that actually, you know what, they've created something pretty cool here. So we're going to do a little bit of collaboration judging, and there might be a bonus point awarded or removed, depending on whether the two brands involved in the collaboration have actually been interested enough in the collaboration that they've actually put it on their own website. Because there are a number of collaborations that happen between brands, and one brand really bigs it up, and it's all over their social media. Another brand just doesn't really speak about it. So there might be a bonus point or two awarded for that. So on that basis, and we'll let Kevin into the room, who will not have a clue what's going on. Good morning, Kevin. How are you?
Very well, gentlemen. Nice to see you all.
Excellent. Excellent. You're just joining us as we introduce a bit of a new game. So, on the basis of our new scale, let's quickly judge the Fears Studio Underdog collab. David, for the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, -5 to 5 for the Fears Studio Underdog. What do you reckon?
I'll give it a 1, maybe.
A 1. So it's just above the payment. Ariel.
Okay, I have to explain. Is 0 an option? Is that in
zero?
The middle?
0 is not. If it's just like does bang nothing for either brand, then yeah, I suppose if it's either of you could have come up with this.
I respect the success both these brands have had. They were never really intended for a consumer like me, though I can appreciate some of their design. So I wasn't. I respect what both of them do, but I didn't want either of them to begin with, really. So it looks cool. I don't really like loom dials. I don't think that green color is very attractive to look at outside of when it's glowing in the dark. It's just not something I want to look at all the time. I imagine it's related to the drink, the Gimlet. I don't know.
Yes, it is. They were basically Richard and Nicholas were drinking buddies over gimlets. That's it.
I've never liked to drink so much. I want to be reminded of the color of it all the time. Again, I'm not the target demographic, so I don't know. Maybe I'll go with the 1 too. That sounds fair.
A 1 for greater than some of the parts. Ripley.
2.5, 3.
2.5. Oh, I don't know. I don't know if we decided whether you're allowed decimal points.
All right, then 3. We'll round up. We'll round up.
On a scale of 10, 2.5.
Okay, so that's the vote for the whole is greater than some of the parts. What about, have you heard of both of these? So I think it's fair to say, overall, David, you'd heard of both of these brands. Ariel, yeah. So what were we giving it? A 3, a 4, 5s? They're not big brands. So maybe there's
I'm notoriously unhip. I don't feel like it should be a bad thing that I don't know about something. I do know these brands, but I think there's all kinds of design personalities out there that it's okay if I haven't heard of them yet.
Well, I mean, may I direct you to last week's Ulysse Nardin?
Don't worry, we're going there.
My gripe was not because I didn't know about him, okay? Let's be mindful. What's like, who is this guy? What's it? No. That was not the issue.
We have HYT and SevenFriday to look at shortly. So, David, award for knowing these brands. What do you reckon?
I'll give it 1 as well. Why not?
Okay, why not? Ariel?
I'm going to give a 0 because the reality is I don't have a huge amount of hands-on experience with both of the brands. I've handled both of their watches only a little bit, so I don't have this whole set of expectations. I think that's what the question is do you have positive expectations for both? I have very little expectations for both, so I'm just going to say a 0.
Okay, and Ripley? The scoring system's not quite going the way I thought it might.
The scoring system's a little bit weird. So what is a 5? Is that like the Victoria Beckham Breitling collab?
Yeah, well, a 5 is, you've heard of both of these people.
Everyone has heard of this, like average everybody.
What's a -3?
-3 is nobody has heard of either of them.
Then what's -5? No one should hear about them? I don't want people to know about this.
Nobody's heard of them, and one of them just went bust in the process of doing the collaboration. Both companies went out of business as a result of this collaboration. It was so bad.
-5 would be like one of them's involved in a scandal or something like that, and they're just like they're canceled or something. Yeah.
So there's a couple of collabs with Jacob and Co that are maybe scaling towards the -5 right now. Yes. So Ripley.
Well, I mean, I've heard of both. Neither is Victoria Beckham or Breitling, I guess. So, again, I want to err on like a 2.5 or 3, but
2.5.
I mean, this is just fundamental. I don't think Bulgari would get a 5. I think like Victoria Beckham and Breitling is probably like the closest we're going to get to a perfect 5. Two things that the average person no point of reference in watches will have heard of before.
And then finally, is this just a cool watch? To what extent is this just a cool watch? So -5 to 5. How cool is the watch, David?
Not very cool. It's cool. I give it a 2. It's cooler than it is known.
Okay. Ariel, is it a cool watch?
Again, I don't know what to compare it with. The finishing looks a bit rough. I don't know. Sounds smallish. I'll go with a 1. I mean, it's going to be a 4 if you love that green color. It's just that green will not look good on me for a very long time.
Yeah, I can Ripley.
I think it's a cool watch. I can enjoy a good Gimlet. I like both these guys. Richard, Nicholas are both lovely humans. I think it's an interesting take on a Fears. I don't think Panerai has done a sapphire fully luminous dial thing. I'll give it a 4. I feel like I've underscored with a 2.5 on some. I'll give it a 4.
Yeah, that's it. So that's our score. So that's how we will score collabs from now on. We'll try and rank as to
You got that, everyone?
It's the most arbitrary thing on the planet.
Moderately confusing.
But that's how this works. So yeah,
That's
how this works. We get to set the rules. Is that not the point of doing this? So right. So the question is, do we go back to some of the things that we have? And I think it's only fair to go back to at least one of them from last week. So to set the scene on this, let's go to the already mentioned. That's not Ponzi scheme. Where is the Ulysse Nardin watch? It's there somewhere. You can all remember what it looks like. When I try to find the window, there we go. Ulysse Nardin, you peta, who knows? So to judge this on the scale of collaborations, now that you understand how this works, David, the total is greater than the sum of the parts.
I don't think so. I think this is Ulysse Nardin pulling EINTRE up from the whatever the mod bit of social media fandom or something like that. Whatever. But it's like I'm not sure. I have to bounce. I would just blast you with my numbers. I would go with a -3,
a -3,
2,
a 2,
and maybe another 2. Because it's cool. I think it's cool, but it's
cool. It is cool. Joseph is appreciating the scale that we're using in the chat, so that's good. Ariel, the Ulysse Nardin, in terms of is the output greater than the sum of the parts?
Well, it looks far less expensive than your average Ulysse Nardin. And it looks like the actual Ulysse Nardin is hiding under the burnt husk of whatever this is.
The LA fired scale.
It looks really hip for a watch around $140. All the expensive parts are, again, hidden. So I don't think that it was a good sum of the parts. I don't know this gentleman's fashion line too much, but I believe this is probably far more expensive than most of those things. So yeah, I'm going to go with like a -2 as well. It doesn't diminish the brand. I'm not like, how dare you, Ulysse Nardin? But I'm like, that's an experiment that you might not want to repeat.
I mean, as I clicked on the screen there, we've already had they're the same watch. So there's the Ulysse Nardin for 30 grand or whatever it was. There's the Timex Giorgio Galli in titanium. It's the same watch. Look at it. It is the same watch. So minus.
What do you mean it's the same watch? That one comes on a bracelet and no one lit it on fire.
True. It's not the same watch. It's a better watch. -2 for that Ripley. What would you give it for the whole is greater than the sum of the parts?
I guess like -4. I've very much heard of UN. I cannot even pronounce this this man's name.
It's an anagram for I can't believe you bought that.
In Russian. Knowledge of the collaborators score, Ariel.
I mean, I know Ulysse Nardin. We've established that this gentleman, we hadn't heard of him. That again, I'm not going to knock them for that. When we looked for his name, we couldn't find anything other than this watch. So apparently he did not want to lend the recognizable elements of his personality to this project. So there's that. We found some fashion he does that, again, is for a different market, youthful. I don't understand the nature of this relationships. I guess in terms of me being excited about this, it doesn't feel like it fulfilled the potential of maybe working with someone. So I'm going to go with a -1.
A -1. Ripley, on the scale of knowing the collaboration?
3, I guess. I guess we'd give 4, +4 for UN, and then like -7 for this guy. So that would shake out to like, yeah, -3 maybe.
-3. Okay. And then is that a cool watch?
Does price play a factor? Objectively, yeah, but
Well,
like this is
we get to make the rules.
grossly. It looks like a Maurice Lacroix that like got rejected before it got to production, like a weird prototype or something.
Okay. So what are you giving it, Ripley, for the coolness factor?
Why, I think it is cool, just not at the price point.
Okay.
2.
A 2. And Ariel, is that a cool watch?
I mean, it's like the positive things I like about Ulysse Nardin are being pushed back by how I don't like that this sort of got through committee. I know that they always say, "Oh, but you guys want us to try new stuff," and we always complain that we do the same thing all the time. I'm like, yeah, that's true, and I love you bringing new personalities in, but I feel that whatever this guy could have contributed, you didn't let him, or he fundamentally didn't understand your brand. Like, for this to be the thing he came up with, meant like, what, he shows up to the factory one day and looks through a couple designs. He's like, I don't like any of this, but I like that stuff I've been seeing on social media for years. I don't feel that this is cool. So I have to go with the -1 because I feel like Ulysse Nardin didn't maybe prompt him properly or manage this, because creatively, I think this is a giant mismatch for what the brand's supposed to be.
Okay, now
It is a bit curious. You think he visited the workshop, saw these people finishing all the nice movement components, and said, why don't we close it up from either side and smoke it out so no one can see your handiwork?
Yeah, let's burn it. He's a pyromaniac,
burn it
obviously.
with fire.
And the brand's like, that's so artistic, and he's being so literal. I want you to die and be on fire. He's like, can we give you money? He's like, if you want to.
But I'm gonna hide my face. Don't let anyone know I'm behind it.
Yeah, I mean, can we remind people he refused to show his full face for the official photo shoot of the watch. And if I was Ulysse Nardin, I was like, are you gonna do that for every shot? Okay, I guess 1 or 2, but every one? I mean, are you embarrassed to be seen with us?
Yeah, that should have been the first clue. Ripley, I feel it's somewhat. We should have pointed out, because we've not done the usual hit miss maybe intro, that you are clad in gear, so to speak. What are you repping brand wise today?
Well, as always, I will wear the best, which means I wear an aBlogtoWatch embroidered octagonal integrated bracelet bezel. I'm not sure what the legally sound vernacular is for. Yeah. And Citizen was kind enough to send along a ProMaster beanie, so it is keeping my ears warm in the frigid weather.
And even though it's child size, it can be stretched.
No. In Ripley's case, it's not being stretched though.
I've got a fairly large head. That's
Have
the
you?
one I do. That's a long neck.
It's a small sized hat, right? Am I wrong?
It is fairly small, but it's got depth in it. Whereas the Seiko one, it was a shallower one. We can do a Japanese holiday beanie shootout on the next episode. I've got opinions.
Beanie review.
Beanie review. There we go. Hit miss.
Meanwhile,
Maybe
Tudors
beanie.
came in its own bag. It's a
hit miss beanie.
It's a much longer affair.
Okay, well, let's do another collab because we did exchange these through the week. Let me just try and find this one. I've only got a little screen of this that was sent by one of the people who is now no longer in the room, I think. This is the HYT Fally Ipupa, the famous Congolese singer, guitarist,
Is that the same word
dancer.
You said earlier?
What was this? The huli.
That's
so
Sally.
Yeah, the Huli. So if you haven't watched the live show, aBlogtoWatch Weekly Live on YouTube, you'll have missed out on all the Scottish vernacular because it's windy here, and I said it was blowing a Huli. Yeah, I think this is the equivalent, the Fally Huli watch.
Is this guy cooler than the brand? This guy might be cooler than the brand.
Well, let's judge it. Let's judge it and see. Now, I'm not actually sure. Yeah, he's just a brand ambassador, so you can pretty much pick any HYT you like. In relation,
I feel like his reason for working with a brand is like, it's the brand name I could easily pronounce.
HYT. So Ariel, David has left us, and the other two who were supposed to be here have not appeared for technical reasons, which I don't quite understand. I'll just check there's nobody in the chat.
Oh, don't ask me to explain this collaboration. I haven't looked into it.
No, so, well, exactly. So but that's the point. A collaboration should stand out and explain itself, surely. So Ariel is
HYT makes strange polarizing watches, and I imagine this is a fairly strange and polarizing collaboration. Many people have never heard of HYT. Many people have never heard of Fally Ipupa.
Okay, this guy is one of three things. He's a musician, a religious leader, or a dictator. Which one of those three things is it?
Well, shot one looks as dictator.
It could be all three.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is the you know how you were talking about the Evolution 9 earlier on? This is the evolution of an HYT.
Does he have a mega church? That would be great.
Shout out to Watches and Profits if he's there. If you've never looked at the Watches and Profits Instagram page, then you really should have Profits and Watches. Can't remember which way around it is. Anyway, so so is the whole greater than the sum of the parts, Ariel, in this collab?
I don't even know what the watch is.
I'm not sure there is one.
I only know Fally Ipupa. I don't know the name. I'm Congolese. Okay. Haven't been to the Congo. Not familiar with the musical stylings of this gentleman. I'm open-minded. I like the color block jacket. Again, that suggests he might be slightly cooler than the current state of HYT, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, let's put it this way: it's not on HYT's website. It's not HYT. Have not got a guy from Congo in a great big multicolored. Look at you remember those golfs you used to be able to get where each of the body panels was a different color. Did you ever have them? Did you have them in the States?
Yeah, that's when you had to go to the body shop but couldn't afford the official parts.
Yeah. So the officially it came in. This is like the jacket this guy's wearing. But yeah, it doesn't appear on the HYT website. So for a collab score,
what is the collab? I mean, I don't understand. Is he an ambassador? Oh, it's an ambassador.
It's an ambassador. You don't know.
I thought there was a watch. I was completely confused.
There's no watch. He doesn't appear to be on the website as an ambastor.
I read this as finally, not Fally, but finally Ipupa is now an HYT ambassador. It's about time.
It's Fally. It was finally. There we go.
They've been waiting.
I have managed to find him on the website. Finally, that's his nickname from now on. Finally, Ipupa. Finally, Huli.
Is Mr. Ipupa going to be playing at any of HYT's events or singing while we check out the new watches in the springtime?
I want him to write a song about the hydromechanical horologists. I want to see if you can weave that into a rap song.
He does seem to like jumpers in a kind of Ben Clymer kind of a way. But there we go. Yeah. So I think he's just collaborating with the entire brand. Let's put it that way. So is the sum of this collaboration going to be greater than the individual parts? What do we think?
I mean, the individual parts are so small. I
don't know how to measure any of this.
And sometimes don't work.
Is Congolese music popular outside of the Congo?
I don't know. Here comes Kevin. Maybe he's got an idea of this. Kevin, without saying anything else, and I can still hear myself talking back on your audio, so terribly sorry. So you might only get one input in this show. Have you ever heard of Fally Ipupa?
I'm afraid not.
I'm afraid not. Thank you, Kevin. Your contribution to the show is much appreciated. We'll see you again next week.
That's pure science right there.
That's pure science right there. So on a scale of not working, I've muted you, Kevin, because it is feeding back. So I'm not sure what's going on. Really sorry. So Ariel, sum is greater than parts.
I guess what I'm trying to determine is, are there more people that know Mr. Ipupa than HYT? Like HYT, we all know it's watch silvers. Like we all know HYT. They've been around since I think about 2012. They're here and they're here to stay, and they make a cool product. Average price point is in the
Not
tens
sure
of
here
thousands.
and here to stay is necessarily true, but they're here.
Hey, they're on their like third or fourth ownership. Okay, that is, you are death proof at that point, right?
All right, okay, that's true. True.
So I'm just trying to determine if, just numerically speaking, who they're trying to reach, because last I checked, Congo didn't have a hugely up and coming upper middle class, and I'm just trying to understand what the deal is here. So
Yeah,
I don't know, maybe a 1, a 2, I don't know.
Okay, a 1 or a 2. We've got a 2. Ripley, the sum of this collaboration, the output's greater than the sum of the parts.
Yeah, I'll go with a 2. I just feel like anything with Mr. Ipupa would benefit my awareness of him. And HYT, let's be real, is not necessarily the Rolex of the watch world. So if Mr. Ipupa can spread the awareness of HYT to his dedicated fan base in the Congo, then yeah, I'll give it a 2. I think that's fair. All things considered.
And the now mute Kevin is going to have to hold up a number of fingers, hopefully an appropriate number of fingers. And if you need a minus, so the scoring is from -5 to +5. So what are you giving it, Kevin? He's giving it a -1. A -1 from Kevin. Kevin, if you log off and come back on and switch on your echo cancellation when you log on, it might assist the situation. Okay, so then the scale of, I can't remember what the scale is now. Have you ever heard of the collaborator? Well, I think the answer is no. So the question is that a full -5 or just a 0?
Okay, you get -5 for Fally. I think HYT maybe pulls a solid 2.5. So -2.5.
-2.5. And Ariel?
Again, I feel like the whole point of them trying to find ambassadors like this is to reach audiences that, are fresh, are new. I don't know this part of the world. I admit huge amount of ignorance. The whole African music scene, again, I have almost no awareness of, but I know it's big. I know it's popular. I know some great music.
Size of Africa, the African music scene.
Well, they made specific mention of Congolese, and I must admit, I don't know if because you're popular in one region, you're popular everywhere. I don't know this information. I feel like they think that he's big enough to spread word about them. Again, I'll go with the 1 just because I know that there's a very small number of people that know HYT. A 2. Let's go with the 2.
A 2. An upgrade to 2. Right, Kevin, we're going to unmute you briefly. Let's hear from you. What are you giving it for? Have you heard of these collaborators?
Obviously, I've heard of HYT. Hopefully, you can hear me okay.
I can hear you.
Oh,
still a bit
okay.
echoey, but I can hear you. We'll keep trying.
How do you pronounce his name? Fally? What?
Well, we're currently on finally Huli, but it's Fally Ipupa, I think. But for reasons that go into the deep depths of this podcast, it's finally
okay. Fair enough.
Rick, how do you pronounce it? Doesn't he have 2 P's in his last name?
But by the way, I'm watching some of his music on YouTube, which I recommend. It's amusingly, as we call it, world music. And he's wearing watches. Like I can't recognize what they are, but apparently that's a thing of his. So I think I can understand why he's like,
if you can't recognize what they are, it's either a interesting flex. He has very obscure taste, or it's the total opposite direction and not noteworthy.
Invicta. Kevin, -5 to +5 for have you heard of these?
Obviously, I've heard of HYT, so that starts off at 0. Never heard of him, so -1 again.
-1, good stuff. And do we think HYT's cool watches?
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%. Yeah.
Cool watches going. So +4, +5, 3. Pick a number. Any number.
2. Oh no! Sorry,
2.
No. Make
Ripley.
it 3. Make it 3. Sorry to apologise. Yeah.
3. Ariel, coolness of HYT.
I think HYT is cool. Again, persistence power. fluidic. Still, no one has tried to do that. So I think that, at least for me, I know not everyone shares that. I'll put it definitely as sort of a 3 on the coolness factor. Don't know what Mr. Ipupa brings to the brand. He's listening to his songs. He's very kind of R&B ish, I guess. I'm curious to see I'm open-minded. I don't know. This is the era of experimenting. Now, 10 years ago, we would not have seen this because I don't know that someone could make a coherent business case for explaining it. But these days, hey, Mr. Ipupa seems to be into it.
Yeah. Ripley, you into it?
Yeah, I think HYT makes extremely cool watches. I don't necessarily I like them when they're at their weirdest, but if they did one of those crazy orbital things in the colors of his sweater, I think that would be a absolutely cracking piece. So, yeah, I'll give this a 4.5.
If you do go to the HYT website and we're playing the video on a aBlogtoWatch weekly live channel, he does suddenly appear in like what would honestly be described as a Christmas jumper. For some reason, not quite sure why.
I'm going to share a screenshot I just took from one of his music videos with you guys in the chat, and you can clearly. He's so obviously trying to show off this Cartier Santos. It's one of the most amusing ways I've ever seen a show. I'm gonna
stick that in the chat, and we'll take it from there. Right, finally, and I'm not sure. I read the press release on this, and there doesn't seem to be any embargo on it. So I'm going to shout out to the pair of you to tell me, is there an embargo on this SevenFriday collab? Does anybody know? Because I can't see it on anything. But it's not anywhere on their website, so they get an immediate -1. But yeah, I can't see there's nothing on the website itself, but it appears to be a collab. So shall we show this live on YouTube?
Is this the Rocket Boy thing?
This is the Rocket Boy thing. There doesn't appear to be an embargo on any of the literature that I've seen before I break it. So I'll give you 20 seconds to check your own emails. But I can't see one. I can't see why I can't share this.
No, it says they'll be presenting it in Geneva, but I'm not.
Yeah, but see, that's the only thing. It says they'll be presenting it, but they've sent it to us now. Presumably they don't think there's going to be. I'll share this image that Ariel has sent while Ripley does his research. Oh dear. Right, okay, we'll share this image of the Cartier Santos being eminently shared. Yeah, there we go. There's finally Ulysse showing his Cartier Santos in a music video. Yeah.
That's just a random screenshot. There could be a lot more like this. This is me doing research for I want to say 2 minutes.
Is it a real Cartier Santos? I don't mean to cast asparagus, but
we do not know.
That's a strange looking. It's quite an old one, for sure. I would think.
Well, it's the 100 for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, right, there we go. So we're going with this as our final collab horror show new voting system. This game show might not make it to the next episode, but we'll see. So here is a product shot of Rocket, BYZ, and SevenFriday. Yeah, there we go. That
looks like it came in a loot crate, like you sign up for a monthly subscription of cool stuff to be sent to you. Like, oh, look at this. I'm not sure what it is. It's like, did a sneaker mate with a timepiece? What is this?
Yeah. What is this is a very good question. You'll need to look at the video to find out. I'm not sure this is going to make a review of the website. You never know. It's not on SevenFriday's website, so it gets an immediate -1 for that.
Who are these Rocket Boys?
Yeah, indeed. Well, let's start by is the output greater than the sum of the parts?
Well, let's before we get into it, let's at least clarify the name. It's SevenFriday X Rocket Boyz by street artist Tommy Boy.
Oh, there's another party involved.
Oh.
No, so Rocket Boyz is presumably by street artist Tommy Boy.
Is Tommy Boy not one of the Rocket Boys?
Maybe he leads them or rides them. I'm not really sure what the Rocket Boys are.
I'm just thinking with your when your last name or your street name is Boy and there's a collaboration with the Boys, I just think it's implied. It's a bit redundant. Does this watch open up? I think almost, I don't want to say 100%, but 99.9% of the time when a watch has a cover that opens up and closes, yet that doesn't actually reveal anything, not really, that fails most of the time.
So this isn't a cover. I've seen previous iterations of this watch. I can't wait to see this in Geneva in a couple months, but I've seen previous iterations of this model. It's all 3D printed. So the watch is that black thing, or in this case, that central green thing. And all of that stuff around it is 3D printed around it to make this cage, roof rack, snowboard binding thing. So the whole watch is, and the crystal and everything is under that. This branches up and then forms these articulating lugs, and then the strap itself is also all 3D printed, and it comes in a very elaborate 3D printed box, but there's no cover. That is just a scaffolding over the front crystal.
Okay, that's entirely unclear from this insane design.
There's so much unclear from this insane design.
Okay, so let's give it a little bit of a vote. So Ariel, on a scale of -5 to 5, is the
16.
16. So it's just a is that a minus or a plus? All the numbers.
I didn't know it would take the Rocket Boyz to push SevenFriday just this far.
So I'm gonna say.
I mean, we're talking about it. A 1? Mm-hmm. I don't know. I mean,
a 1.
I don't really want to wear it because it doesn't look like a tool of any kind. It's a bauble for the wrist, and like it looks like you win it out of a machine as a prize.
Okay, in the chat, Breaking News Beat seems to know something about this. That thing's pretty sick. If they did a collab with the same Rocket Boyz but did the pimp design, that'd send it over for me. Okay, Breaking News Beat sounds like he's down with this kind of thing. So yeah, maybe it's one for him.
Ripley, I have more questions. What is the pimp design?
I have no clue. Breaking News Beats in the chat if you wish to inform us as to what
he's enlightening about. Us. It sounds like
Rocket
you are
enlightening
us. Boy pimps.
No, let's not go there. That's only going to go badly and get us to ban somewhere. Ripley -5 to +5.
Well, this is the most visually assaulting version of this concept from SevenFriday I've seen yet. And I wouldn't say that the regular ones are in any way conservative timepieces. So is it more than the sum of their parts? I've never heard of Tommy Boy or Rocket Boyz, or Rocket Boyz by Tommy Boy, I guess is the full name. So yeah, 4. Surprisingly a 4.
Surprisingly a 4. Yep. Kevin, what do you reckon?
It's 5 because we're talking about it. Everybody's going to be talking about it, and for a design aesthetic, -3.
-3. Good stuff. And then Ariel, have you heard of the collaborators?
No, I think that's been well established.
Well established to what sort of minus score?
I'm gonna go with 0 because it's I don't feel like this is a negative. I don't think it's a positive, negative here. That's the whole point. Is they're trying to do new stuff, and I appreciate SevenFriday for this. I no longer feel like all these watches need to be for me. I just tried to understand who they're for and how those people appreciate it. I just feel like I have so many questions about who are the people that wear this. I mean, look at this behind splatter art. Is that what they do for fun? Is that the most artistic talent they have?
That's not paint. That's
that
blood.
Not paint?
There's a chainsaw just off to the side.
Yeah, like
cut your own arm off.
I really want to know what's going. I'm more curious than anything. Let's put it that way.
Okay, well, Breaking News Beats come back. It's a club watch they did, lots of neon colors that would glow in a backlight. Pimp was just a model they made in that collab. So there you go.
There's pimps at nightclubs.
Every day's a school day. Ariel, what are you scoring it?
For under what scale? I just gave it a 0.
Just pick a number, a 0. That's fine.
Oh boy.
Ripley, just think of a number. Ripley,
1. It's grotesque and fascinating, and looks absolutely unwearable if we go to that first shot where the guy's wearing
it. Kevin,
keeping it brief, a 1.
A 1 as well. And then, is it a cool watch,
Absolutely,
Kevin?
But I agree with Ariel. I don't know who it's for. You can't wear it, and as soon as you hit the door frame, the watch will break probably because it's 3D printed. So
no, the 3D printed stuff is strangely flexy and almost furry to the touch. But it is kind of flexy. You can't see half of the dial, but you have ample protection in the event of an impact to the face of it.
Good stuff. Describing a watch as furry has always aided its selling points, obviously. Kevin, score for coolness.
I think it is quite cool. I do think it's quite cool. Yeah,
okay.
I'll give it a 3.5.
-5.
A 3. A 3.
You give it a what?
For being cool.
3. Ripley coolness score?
-3. I mean, people keep saying, who is this for? It's for the Rocket Boyz. I thought that's been established.
So they own them all. Ariel, give it a final coolness score.
I would give it a high coolness score if only I understood the time telling component. I've looked at multiple of these pictures. I still have no idea how the time is told or if the time is told
at all,
which means such a small portion of the overall surface was dedicated for this feature. And I feel that really diminishes its ability to be successful, right? For me, it has to be interesting, but also successful to be cool. So I think -1, I appreciate what they tried to do, but I think they're like too angry at watches. So like, screw it. It should sort of tell the time only. Like, I can't get behind that philosophy.
Well, that is it. And that is our show for this week. It would be remiss of us not to finish out with the usual jingle. So to play us out on the main
thank
show.
you. I needed it.
Before, could I make a request?
No, don't interrupt the jingle. What? Come on, better be good. You interrupted the jingle.
Better be really good, Ripley.
I would like the stems for our jingle to be sent to me. During some downtime, maybe on an international flight, I can put some. Maybe I can get that drum and bass mix together for us. And yeah, please email me, Ripley at aBlogtoWatch. Please email me the stems.
The stems are available. I will send them to you. Yeah. So come on, here we go then. But you need to give us. Can you not just do some what do they call it when you make noises with your gob and you make beats and stuff like the guy did in Police Academy?
Can Fally Ipupa do a remix?
The Fally Ipupa, there we go.
I want to hear it in Congolese.
Congolese, there we go. We can hear it in English for just now.
Let's hear your thoughts on a blog.
I mean, this is fairly drum and bassy already, is it not?
73866.
It's not heavy enough for you, Ripley.
897.
See, that's the best bit. Big box, small box.
+44 7386690.
That's David's favourite bit. It's the bit at the end. Right, that's it for us this week. If you want to email the show, it is, what's their address? Podcasts with an S on the end at aBlogtoWatch.com. If you want some more of this, then you can go check out the aBlogtoWatch Weekly live channel, because there'll be a bit more chat after we end the show you listen to on Spotify and iTunes and all the rest of it. So from us just now, it's goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.